Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the wonderful world of the little reader. That's me. I don't actually speak like that, but I will tell you what that is because I've been asked a few times. That is a very poor Mrs. Doubtfire impression. Yes, that's what that is. So when people ask, "Are you doing a Scottish accent or what you doing?" It's Mrs. Doubtfire speaking through me, my love. That's what it is. It's the wisdom of Mrs. D. So if you didn't know, now you know. But yes, I'm the little reader. You're in my house. I'm so happy to have you. I have an inkling of what's going to come out of this mouth right now, but as your humble channeler and reader, here's how it works. I sit my arse down, typically on the floor because I like it, okay? And open myself to peace and love. And I don't just open myself to peace and love when I sit here before you. It's a lifestyle for this soul. Hours every day are spent in meditation and breath work and communing with that very white light. So this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I'm able to transmit to you in the temporal hopes of inspiring you, but in the knowing that there is an energetic transmission beyond the intellect, beyond logic and beyond hope and beyond good intentions. It's love meeting love. That's how we roll round this house. So it's a pleasure and an honor to have you. Get comfy, get cozy. If you were here yesterday, you know I am attempting to make friends with some mushroom coffee. I've got that next to me, but you might enjoy having a cup of your own little substance, whatever that may be. I'm no judge, so, sip it. Whatever you like. What's already arising is a little dialectic on self-love. And that word is thrown around like a bean sack in a cornhole tournament. Yeah. I'm not proud of that one, but that's what came out. That term self-love, it just gets peppered on like it's a solution to everything. It's like that commercial Frank's. I put that on everything. Yeah, throw some self-love on it. You got a problem. At least here in Los Angeles, this is a spiritually forward culture that your friend lives in. So in this area of the US of A, there's a lot of talk about self-love and self-nurturing and inner child work, and you just slap a new label on there and it's the same premise. But what the hell is that premise, and why is it important? That's what's coming through today, and we're going to get a divine insight mixed with a temporal, hopefully somewhat entertaining personal insight. So put it all together and what have you got? Magic, baby. You got magic. If you don't know what self-love is, the idea is that you, beautiful soul, Y-O-U, sitting right there or standing and listening to this in the background, look at yourself as a third party that requires loving attention. And you advocate for that individual as you would for a beloved friend, a beloved child, or a beloved pet. In other words, the concept and the intention of self-love as a premise is that you take care of that which you have been given. A body, a mind, and a heart. The big three. The Holy Trinity. And you aren't expected to meet every need by yourself. This fallacy number one was self-love. That in loving myself, I become hyper-independent and I don't need anybody else to meet my needs. I don't need you. I don't need sex. I can just masturbate. I don't need touch. I can just self-massage. I don't need companionship. I can just read a book. That is not quite it. Rather than become an island unto yourself and reject the world, which is a tact that many beginners take in self-love as they're starting to understand their own power, the mind swings to an extreme and also knocks the microphone off its stand. It swings to an extreme and it says, well, then I don't need anybody. The beginning of healing, my sweet friend. But as we continue on the journey of self-love, we realize no, nay. It's not about meeting all of your needs by yourself. It's about advocating for all of your needs, always. And there's a big difference. Colossal, actually. It's choosing relationships on that premise of love and sex and intimacy that we just described based on compatibility, true compatibility. Something that can only be assessed when we know ourselves. This is an enormous part of self-love. As you care for something, as you prioritize something, in this case your body's health, your mind's health and well-being, and your heart's health and well-being, you learn to know it. You witness your own patterns. You see how you roll when you're in an unconscious state. Morning person, evening person. Ambitious. Or go with the flow. Type A, type B, type Z. Turned on by this, turned off by that. Dreams of this, dreams of that. Hopes for this, hopes for that. As you care for every layer, you learn. You learn. You learn to know yourself in unconsciousness. This is how I'll react when I'm triggered that way. You don't even need to know the whys, but it's a witnessing, it's a familiarity, it's a knowing. This is an enormous part of self-love. And I know you can understand how that would be helpful in navigating the human experience, to know thyself. When you're completely unconscious, you know your bad habits. You know how you spiral. There's an almost, it can't be overemphasized. There's a gargantuan, colossal, monumental element of witnessing yourself as a third party in the process of self-love. That is almost a requirement for a successful execution of the process. When there's no beat, there's no moment of consciousness between big you, your most mature, elevated, conscious identity, and little you, your most embedded in patterns, unconscious, autopilot self. And the two get lost in this scrambled egg, and the yolk and the white become inseparable. Just like the best caretakers of other people, of pets, of places, don't absorb or over-identify with that which is in their care. Instead, they foster healthy interdependence, they foster autonomy, and they foster sovereignty in that care. That is the same principles that apply to self-care and self-love. It is very much like a healthy parent-child or caretaker-child relationship. And this is where phrases like inner child work start to arise. We can lose the labels, though. In essence, self-love is the care and keeping of the temporary, passing aspects of you. And here's where it starts to get spiritual. And here's what makes self-love the most spiritual practice of our time. I distinguished before the self into a mature, conscious, stable self, and a small, passive, pattern-based, reactive, programmed self. And those two coexist. I will say the majority of humanity spends a lot of time here. That's not a failing. That's not a judgment. And that's not a problem from the perspective of the divine. That is, in fact, perfect, as much as our minds may blow up upon hearing that. It is part of the human maturation process, the evolution of consciousness, which we are all participating in, knowingly or unknowingly. As we drill down and dive in and get closer and closer and closer, it is revealed to us that this higher aspect of self, with so many attributions in every industry and field of study. Some say, prefrontal cortex is your higher functioning, it's your forward part of your brain. Others will say it's your highest evolutionary potential. Others will say it's your dharma, your soul. We're all ascribing labels to it. But here in the house, the way it's been channeled through this humble vessel, is that this self, that mature, stable, conscious witness, is the same in all humankind. It resides right here, center of the chest, giving life. And it is the truest identity that we can ever have, as a divine witness to all that is. If we sit with this on purpose, some major shifts begin to occur that result in self-love without intellectually trying. Rather than allowing the mind to lead, which is a chaotic way of life, even if it appears to be ordered on the surface, it creates great conflict. Because the purpose of the life, the compass of the life, and the desires of the life are stored in the heart. If we let the mind lead us into self-love, we will develop routines, for instance, like exercise. nutrition, a diet, healthy habits, getting out into the fresh air, watching our macros and counting our calories, reading ingredients on bottles and shit like that there. If we do that, somehow we still seem to get it wrong. We get sick off of too many supplements. We keep getting injured in our exercise process. It's like every well-intentioned good step forward in the direction of self-love, somehow a backhanded slap from fate. It's like, whoa, why is that? I keep doing everything right, according to the mind. Self-love unfolds naturally as a byproduct of shifting our awareness into the heart. When we do this, we don't have to write down a regimen. We don't have to logic our way through love. We don't have to put everything on paper. We don't need to list everything. We don't need to try to buy peace, barter and trade for peace by making these lifestyle changes. See, I did that. I did that. I don't mean I, the little reader, although I have. I mean the attitude is shaking our fist at the universe and saying, I did my best. Why do you keep screwing me over? I'm trying to love myself. I selected my relationship partner based off of the logical attributes that indicate success and mental health and emotional health. Why does our relationship feel like caca? So, self-love becomes a great spiritual practice, not when it's lived through the mind. When we take that awareness that we've just described within us, that we're constantly shunting into the mind, again, not a problem. It's enculturated. It's where we are in our evolution of consciousness. We will not shame it. We'll not even boo it. This is merely an invitation. When we take this, all of that white light of awareness that we keep shoving up into the mental realm, whereby we analyze, critically think, and be smart about all our choices. And we shift that awareness to the heart instead. Everything shifts. Everything. Self-love becomes a lifestyle. Self-love becomes that spiritual practice we spoke of. Self-love begins to push us in the direction of purpose. It begins to awaken massive amounts of peace. It relaxes us. It reveals us. It changes us. But it's not so much that it's doing anything. What's changing is our point of identification. No longer do we exist to try to figure out the right thoughts, think the right thoughts, so that we can take the right actions, so we can live the right way. It has nothing to do with thinking, believing, organizing. It's a life completely out of the realm of mind, save for the moments in which life requires we interact with that realm. And it does all the time. But we develop such an ability to use the mind to deduce, analyze in its moment, communicate like I am now using a language that was derived by the mind for the mind. But behind this communication of words is a transmission of energy. So much happens on so many layers simultaneously, and as we begin to shift our awareness around those layers, we can experience the totality of the human experience with so much more richness, firsthand. It's no longer an idea or a thought. I can't language it to you, because the mind that invented this language was a mind. This is the purpose of art, of music, of that which bypasses logical analysis and simply moves us. So I can't tell you using a mental construct. What it feels like to experience life for real. As it is. And to know much, maybe even all, and never be able to communicate it. But not have to. Because it's not your job. A life of self-love doesn't necessarily lead to a life of evangelism. But don't take it from me, because I'm attempting to evangelize you, beautiful soul. Don't take any of this from me. Nay. Don't believe it. Don't think it. Just experience it. And then go on your merry way, never to return. No, I'm kidding. You can always come back. Door's always open. You don't have to go out and preach it. You just become. And in that becoming, it may raise questions and turn heads. You might find yourself moved with zeal. But it's never forced, and it never feels forced. You're merely a star shining in the sky, surrounded by millions of other stars. But this time, you know what you are. And you shine a little brighter because of it. What it takes to move your awareness into the realm of heart is what this whole channel is about. It's evolved into that. It started as reading cards, and then it shifted from reading cards to daily transmissions, and then it shifted into a self-love revolution. And where it goes next, nobody knows, not even me. It's not my job. I just show up. But you can find probably 100 other transmissions on how to shift into the heart. They're all here on the channel. Also, we've got links down there. We've got a Patreon, guided meditations. We've got an offer for one-on-one coaching. What? That's down there. We've got other links to other teachers, some Wim Hof breathing, some breath of life, a book by the great spiritual catalyst, Teal Swan. Whatever tickles your fancy, love. But I'll close up this sermon on self-love with this. You're going to find it when it's time to find it. It cannot be forced. It cannot be faked. It cannot not be impersonated. That is precisely what makes self-love the greatest spiritual practice of our time. Because when it's happening because the individual practicing is ready. And we cannot control that level of readiness, no matter how much the mind wants control over every goddamn thing. The mind's like, of course I can. I can be ready now. I'll book the coaching now. I'll buy the book now. No, darling, no. You won't do a thing until you're ready, and that's okay. That's exactly how it's meant to be. The self-loving practice in its entirety is that surrender. It is sitting back in the witness perspective, whether you find that to be back here, in here, fully embodied, a little different for every soul. Wherever that is, it's sitting in that witness perspective and saying to these little parts, your body, the form, your mind, your heart, as the witness, I got you. It doesn't matter what courses we take, what we can and can't afford, or whether or not we even like to read or listen to audiobooks or breathe. I might not be ready for any of that yet. I might want to go, take off my shirt, let it all out, and play some video games. What self-love is is allowing that. Surrendering to and witnessing the patterns that we call you with loving awareness. And simply dosing your life experience with a loving perspective in which you watch yourself and go, that's my girl. Insert gender here. You can use your name too. That's Amanda. And you smile with pride in everything she does. Above judgment, above criticism. Dosing this self, this temporal, fleeting self, with a love like that. Again, I can't tell you what it does. You get to go experience it yourself. But it's powerful, beautiful soul. It's the magic. It's the only medicine that you need. That I can promise from both a personal and a divine perspective. And it is what will change our world. So, that's where we're leaving it today. Thank you so much for joining me and loving you enough to consider the possibility that you're perfect exactly as you are right now. I'm sending you all the love I've got. It's always more. It's never less, because you are so very, very, very worthy of it. You are it, and I love you. Until we meet again, my friend.